Hello and welcome to my video where I will benchmark a bunch of games. The first game we have is Black Myth Wukong. In this game we have FSR available, FSR 3.0, which means we have frame generation, which is really great. The frame generation implementation is not the greatest, but it's good enough. And it helps with the frame rate in certain situations. Now, here the game is set on cinematic. We are on the latest stage of the game. So last chapter, all upgrades, I think this is the best way to kind of do it. As you can see, I'm on this Nimbus cloud. And I'm not getting more than 60 FPS because when you're on the cloud and you're traveling, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 99%, that the game is just locked at 60. I couldn't get past 60. And here, as you can see on the 7900 XTX, we sometimes not get that 60 when we're moving that fast. But it's not the worst thing, since you're not gonna play here. But again, this is cinematic, this is no FSR, so it's pretty good. It looks pretty good. Here we have the game on very high, no frame duration still, and FSR still on 100%, and still we're gonna see next that we don't really get that. The 60 FPS, we get 57, 58, 56. It's in that ballpark, which is not bad. Again, it's not bad, since there's no upscaling, there's no frame duration, but still, I don't think this is the best way to showcase this. But I still put it in just to be safe. Now looking at FSR on 75%, that's a bit of a different story. As you can see, the game runs a lot better. The game, does just look slightly worse for that 60 FPS mark that we're trying really hard to hit. Which we do. We get 75, 76. So I think I was wrong about the cloud, but I think frame generation just doesn't want to work. And now we're back to cinematic. And now we somehow get a bit more FPS than we used to. I think it's just the density of the trees or something along those lines. Now this is why I thought the cloud, when you're on the cloud, frame rate doesn't want to work, because I've been checking. I was like, okay, did I put it on? Did I put it on? And yes, it is on. And there's no frame rate generation happening. So I think this is a little bit of a bug, maybe. But once you go, like, it goes sometimes to 75. And you can see now it goes to 60. But it kind of stays there when you're like moving really fast. So I think it's when you're moving really fast, the game is just stuck at 60, but not all the time. And as you can see here, I had 51. Now this is when you're when you're just playing the game, right? You have FSR 100%, you have frame duration if you want. I do enjoy it because I was playing on a controller, and those 100 frames were feeling pretty good. Everything again is on cinematic, as you can see. The game looked really good. No ray tracing though, and I put it on high. With frame duration, you get at almost 120 FPS. That's really good. Now let's see without it. Without it's still pretty good. It's what we were getting on cinematic with frame generation. So if you don't want to use frame generation, but you still want to have that 90 plus FPS, this is how you do it. You can even upscale a bit, maybe get 75%. Now, this is very high with no frame generation. And you get 70. That's respectable. That's above 60. That's very good. With a game that has some ray tracing, it's not full ray tracing, but it still has some. If I wouldn't turn that on, the graphics card just kind of dies. And then cinematic, you get 60. So, the difference between very high and cinematic, they're not that big, I think, in how they look, but you shave off like 10 FPS around there from what I've been experiencing. Now, Cyberpunk is very interesting. Yes, breath tracing. Now, you don't have the really, really, really good one, you have up. You can only just turn it on and off. And as you can see with FSR native, path tracing on, and then the graphic preset used on ultra, I was getting around 50 FPS. Now the game looked really good, and I'm not sure if many would play it. I'm alright with 45. I can play with a controller, that's fine. And now this is FSR on quality, and you can already see we're getting that 60 plus. In this environment, this is the DLC area. This is a bit less optimized than the rest of the game. The rest of the game should run better than what we're seeing here, but still, with FSR and quality. Now this is 1080p. I should specify. All games have been tested at 1080p. It's pretty playable. And you can use path tracing and everything. It's fine. And FSR and quality. Now, some people might not like how FSR and quality looks, and then we're gonna have Alan Wake 2 coming up to see the differences. And FSR just doesn't know what to do with foliage in most games. It's fucked. It's not really good. But here I think in Cyberpunk it's decent enough since it's a fast-paced game, so you're not gonna really see what the foliage and everything else, which is really good. Really good. Now once we turn frame generation on, we can get even more FPS. We can get up to the hundreds. So still same deal as last time. About 100 FPS, which is really playable, I feel like. Now some people might not like the input delay. I don't mind it. And you can always just use a controller and then everything is fine. You have both of the best worlds. You don't have that much of an input, and the game runs really well. Another thing that I observed while playing this, obviously, is if path tracing is on, no matter what settings you're doing, so no matter what preset, it kind of tanks. The FPS just kind of tanks. Now it might be because I should have restarted the game for all the changes to actually apply a lot more nicely, but I was trying medium, I was trying low, and it was still around the same ballpark. So path tracing just kind of kills your whole thing here, which is not ideal, to be fair, but there are ways to make it work. You just have to get FSR and frame duration on. Now we're on to Alan Wake 2, a game that works really well with any of the two upscalers. I think Intel can do it as well. So any of the three upscalers, I should say. No ray tracing, and then FSR on quality. It looks really good, I feel like, and you get like 120 FPS, which is like the very sweet spot. I think in 1440p you might get a bit lower. You might get around 80 to 70. And now this is native. Native shaves off quite a bit of FPS, but at the same time I feel like it's looking pretty decent. It's looking a lot better. There's no more shimmering. There's no upscaling, but you lose those 20 frames. Use about 20 frames. The biggest difference we're gonna see is once I turn on RT. Once I turn on RT, you're gonna be able to see like the very big difference. Here I will turn RT on low, so like the lowest version of ray tracing, and you can see that the FPS kind of tanked. They did not like this. The AMD side will always never really like ray tracing this like past generation. Maybe the new the 9700 will like it. Here I'm trying it with quality, FSR on quality, and it's decent, and it works, and it's playable. And I think it is playable up until 1440p. I don't think you can do 4K. I think at that point in 4K, you maybe might able to get 60. I'm not sure. Now I'm trying now to see the ultra performance, which, to be fair, it is performing. It is a pretty big performance, but you can see that the trees are not looking that good, and because this is a very foliagey area that I'm playing right now in, you can definitely see how bad it is. So I would stick to quality at like the best setting for FSR. Quality, nothing below it on 1080p. It's just not worth it. There's not enough pixels or anything to really make a good case for it. Unfortunate. I should also add the fact that when I tried to use the AMD fluid motion frames, the game, I don't know what happened. It just didn't want to look well. I would see the ghosting really badly on the screen. On the recording, you're not gonna be able to see it, but the ghosting was really bad. So that's why I didn't use it. I'll try again now that there's a new update for AMD fluid frame generation, the software one, and I'll see how good that is in a later video. Here we have Remedy's control. It runs really well without ray tracing. It does 220, 240 FPS around there, and it's just a blast to play if you have like a high refresh rate. And even with ray tracing, as you're gonna see, while the frame rate drops a bit, I feel like it's still really good. So everything, and the game really lights up and looks a lot better in my opinion after these. I really like how it looks, and you still have 160 FPS, which is great. Now Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, for me it worked. So if I had no problem with the game. The game runs really well, and it's been quite a blast to play it. I'm not gonna lie, I played a bit more than here, and I really like it. I might do a series about it. I'm not sure, and it just runs really well, like really really well, which I'm really happy about. I had no problems. I know some people had like crash issues when the game launched. I had none, so I was able to just play the game and enjoy the really good 120 FPS that it can run in. Very nice. Now, God of War Ragnarok, another Sony title that's been ported over to PC. You're gonna see a lot of it because I really had enjoyed seeing how FSR looks on all its settings, or most of them at the very least, all the graphics as well to kind of see the difference. But here it is, just a game without frame generation, which is available again, very nice, at around 175. Now this is this is not the most intensive scene in the game. This is just where I was at the time, and I was like, okay, let's do it here because it has foliage, and it kind of worked really well because you can kind of see the grass and stuff like that being handled by FSR, which doesn't really do the best of the jobs. But here, I don't think there's a point in doing FSR or frame generation for that matter. You get 160, 180 plus most of the time. So it's just awesome, unless you really want that like very, very high number of FPS. Here we have Red Dead Redemption 2. Now it is a bit of a older game, but it still looks really good and it runs really well as well. With MSA on 4 times 1080p, the game looks really good and it runs at 130 FPS, which is a dream. Now this is the story mode. I'm not sure how it will run in online. I've not done the testing in online. I've done it in single player. But I reckon even with the online, I still would have gotten around 120, I think. If my memory is correct, it was around 120. So great job in optimizing the game. Now we're on to Resident Evil 4, the remake, which is a game made in Re-Engine, just like another popular game you might have heard of, Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, in this game, the Re-Engine looks really good. It runs really good. As you can see, there's ray tracing on it. It still runs really well. It's on ultra, runs like a charm. There's no problems with it, and it just works. The engine works for games that are more level based. They're not open world. We've seen Dragon Dogma 2 fail and have like a horrible launch, and we've seen Monster Hunter Wilds do pretty much the same. But here, the re-engine, when it's done well like this, I feel like it just, one, looks really good, two, just runs as well very nicely. And the last one we have is Space Marine 2. Now, this game got the FSR 3.0 implementation recently-ish. I think I'm like a month or two away from when it first got it. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good, yeah. Having frame generation, again, is just a helpful tool. Now, you don't need it at this tier of a card. The 7900 XTX does not need FSR or frame generation to be really playable, but I feel like it's good. I feel like it's just nice to have there. Again, this is the hub area, and the game looks really good, runs really well. I'm gonna get into a mission later on, and you guys can see how it performs there as well. But overall, every game that I've tested ran really nicely. Besides maybe Cyberpunk with path tracing, but that's besides the point. Now, I'm gonna leave you with the gameplay, and please don't forget to subscribe and like. It's very important. Comment, and that was this was the video. Bye bye.